doing today. Hey, Danny. See you already asking questions. Great. Can I just get a quick thumbs up that the audio and video is everything's good? We're good to go. No audio or video. I just started. So, hey, Mr. Cole. Marin, nice. There I am. Thank you very much. Audio and video good, everybody. Matthias. And Mr. McLaren, can't forget you. Ciao. How are you? Hope everything is good. You're in Rome, I believe, right? I think you're in Rome. Audio's good. Sweet. Okay, so today, for a while, especially since I've been doing a lot of SEO stuff, with SEO Helper and all that jazz. People have been, also talking about multilingual websites and kind of wondering how SEO is going to affect multilingual websites and stuff like that. So I thought it would be fun today to kind of review some options that we have for multilingual websites in RapidWeaver and what we can use to build them. Now, I added a few features to my agent stack earlier today that will make some things a little bit nicer. And I'll go into those when we get to it. But I'll probably ship that out by the end of this week or so. So yeah, a lot of people want to build a website that supports multiple languages. And what does that mean? So essentially, let's say, a lot of times they'll have maybe some buttons at the top that are like, English and German, or Spanish and English, or Spanish, English, and German, right? You can have a lot of different variations. Most of the time, people are only doing two languages. Most of the time, you're toggling between English and another language, but I've seen many sites that do a lot more, that could do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 languages. It's really up to you. Obviously, that's a lot of work because you have to duplicate at least a lot of your text, right? So a lot of times we need to, obviously modify the text so that it matches the various languages, right? But there's so many other things that we need to actually think about because it's more than just text, right? Because there's the meta tags, right? So for SEO, how do we have meta tags for our German pages versus our English pages or our Spanish pages, right? Because those meta tags that are going to get served up to Facebook or Google and all that stuff, we want to make sure that those are unique as well, correct? So how can we do that, right? Other things are menus. How can we customize the menu properly? And how can we handle that? So SEO menus, obviously, how do we switch between the various languages? How can we switch our content out, right? Because it's more than just text as well. It is possible a particular image might work better for English users versus German users, So it is completely possible to swap out images as well. So if you want to serve up, when the language is set to German, you can define particular images that are served up for German users versus Spanish or English users, right? So that is all possible with what we're going to be showing you today. And last, I should also note that, it is possible that you could just set up redirects as well, right? Because if you're doing more than 2 languages, chances are it could be kind of difficult and very cumbersome to really lay out and have all this if else logic on your page for different languages, and your page can get quite complex if you're doing, especially if you're doing more than 2, right? So possibly you could set up dedicated pages for German, English, Spanish, and when someone requests a German page, it just redirects you, okay, to a different page that could maybe have German in the URL or DE, like maybe it contains the language code, and maybe you could do some fancy, htaccess pretty URLs for that stuff too, if you really, really, really wanted to. But yeah, we're going to look at all those options today. So, also, I should also note that there's been a popular product for many years called RWML. It's been around for a long, long time. and I forget who the original developer was, but now it's Will Woodgate stack. I don't believe he originally started RWML. It was by somebody else. I think it was Rapid something. I don't know. I believe he took it over about a year ago or so. I could be wrong on that, but RWML is I'll be honest, I haven't played around with it. I have a copy just to see what it does a little bit different. Here, let me share my screen. I'm not too knowledgeable on RWML, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I figure I will be a nice guy, and I'll show you all the various options out there, especially since I know a lot of people talk about RWML on the forums and whatnot. So there we go. This is RapidWeaver, obviously. I also have a quick update. Maybe I'll review RWML really quick. And then what we'll do is I have a quick update to some of the pretty URL multi-language stuff I was doing last week. I got it working really, really good after the live stream last week, so we'll go over that too. Okay. Actually, I don't need any of this content in this page, so let's just delete all of this just to have a blank page. Okay. So RWML apparently has like a base stack. I'm not sure what optional area to store this is. I'm not 100% sure. You can also load in different languages. And I believe all this is handled via PHP. But again, I haven't played around with this at all. So let's do this. So we got a language switcher. So apparently it has like some sort of built-in thing that has a bunch of different buttons and toggles and whatnot. It has the ability to manage languages for the menu. So for every single menu item, you can like create a translation for each menu item. Okay. Interesting. This works well. A lot of the stuff I'm going to be showing you later today kind of relies on a blank theme. So if you're using a traditional theme and you want to translate the menu, this is a really great solution for that. I don't have a particular solution for this particular style of setup. But we'll show you some other stuff later today. Meta tags. It has some basic meta tags where you can translate stuff. Redirects, as I said, redirects are available. This allows you to like do a search and replace for various words. Not really sure how useful that is. I would rather just supply completely different content instead of search and replace for words. But okay, if that works, great. I don't even remember what this one is. Short text. Oh, this is just the ability to define different text for different languages. We'll show you how to do that. Sidebar. I actually have no clue what this does. I'm assuming it adds stuff to the RapidWeaver sidebar. Again, this is something that might be useful if you're using a traditional theme that uses sidebars and stuff like that. But if you're using Foundation or other blank themes, you probably don't need that. And this is an obsolete stack. And this wrapper. I really have no clue what this is either. I don't know what this is. I think it's the ability to change the content based on a language. I'm thinking we have the ability to do that too. So RWML is an option. I'm sure I didn't do it justice. I'm sure it's a great stack. I know a lot of people use it. The real benefit that I see of using this is if you're using traditional themes, this menu stack that does the translation of every single menu. I think there's better ways to do this if you're not using a traditional theme, if you're using something like Foundation. But this seems like a great stack if you want to do that. So if you're using traditional themes and you want to translate the menus, this is probably your best bet. So yeah, that's a good one. I don't know any other way of doing that. So everything else, we'll show you alternatives. But if you're using RWML, I'm sure it's really great. So cool. I promised I was going to look at. We are going to look at last week. Okay, last week I did some out of the box thinking with Total CMS. And then I built this little layout that we had Spanish and English versions of the stack or of a blog post, right? And actually, I think it's still online. Let me just bring up a browser really quick. Oh, there it goes. Oh my goodness. What did I do? Apparently I broke that page. Here, let me, I'm going to republish all of this. Okay, let's republish all. Apparently I republished stuff to my sandbox site since last week and broke it. Okay, but essentially what I did is it was just a very small little thing that we can add to the htaccess rules that just like magically made it all work. It's really cool. So if you didn't remember, what we did is so review it last week if you want all the details, right? But essentially what we did is, while this is publishing, I'll explain it. Inside this blog post, we used one of the content areas in blog. I think it was summary we used for English, and then the content area we used for Spanish. Okay. And we wanted to swap between those so that if the language on the page was set to Spanish, it loaded the Spanish content. And if the language was set to English or nothing, the default was English, it would then display the English content, right? So, and while that worked, when we started using pretty URLs, things started breaking because, we had /permalink, and then we had the language at the end, and the htaccess rules that we had that are out of the box from Total CMS just kind of puked and was like, I don't know how to handle that. So I figured it out, and it's this new little, it's a little query parameter that you add to the end of your htaccess rules. We'll show you, and it's called QSA. It stands for query string append. So it was a really, it took me a while to discover it, but once I discovered it, it was a super simple solution. And I'm actually going to be adding that to the default rules inside Total CMS. So going forward, like this little doodad will be, this little tag will be at the end of the rules that you copy and paste from Total CMS. And this is it right here. So this just in square brackets QSA, and that does it, right? That's all we needed to add. So let's go ahead and preview this page again. Oops, I have double slashes in there for some reason. Okay, there we go. Oh, let's go into a blog post here. So boom. So here we have a blog post. Right. And if we clicked on Spanish, it works, right? And if you look at the URL, we still have pretty URLs, and then we have the lang equals ES at the end. So really, really cool. And all that was done was through this. I forgot that I actually changed it on the server. So let's just show you the file. Sandbox. Again, if you want to know how all this was done, watch last week's live stream. I think it was the last thing I did, so it was towards the end. It was a long one last week, but it was really, really good. So if we look at the htaccess rules, and there we go. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Right? So super simple. All we needed to do was add this square bracket QSA. And this was the out of the box rules that you paste from that Total CMS gives us. And all we needed to do was added this square bracket QSA close bracket. So really cool. You might also want to, if you can also add an L in there, capital L. And what that does is it says that basically stop the rules here. L means last. So when it hits that rule, it'll just stop processing the rest of the htaccess file. Not really required, but if you have a really big htaccess file, it could help with, microseconds of performance maybe. So yeah, just need that QSA, and that will take any existing URL parameters and append them to the end of the query string at the end. So if you want to append parameters to the end of a pretty URL, you're going to need that little QSA thing in there. And like I said, I've already added it to Total CMS, so it'll be in the next, whatever the next update is. So yeah. Really cool one. Took me a little while to figure that one out, but it's really cool. So anyway, okay. That was kind of related to multi-language, right? I'm not going to review all of that again, how we did all of that. Here, let me just close out all this. And in essentially here, what we did is we used agent URL. We're going to be kind of looking at this later on anyway, playing around with agent URL. But with agent URL, I just said if the language is EN, display this content. And then if the language is ES, we display this content, right? So As you see here in the content, the main content was set to the English, and in the blog post, we're using the summary for the Spanish content. So really cool stuff there. Allows us to, toggle content based on language. Really, really cool. Okay, so let's get back to it. I'm going to close this up. Let's go to a blank page. And let's see, I did the rehash. Okay, let's do how to switch content. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the agent stack right now. And last week, I did a lot of stuff using agent URL. Okay, and that was probably the easiest way to handle a lot of the language stuff, because essentially what you could do is language URL is very generic. You could pass it any URL parameters and it will display content based on rules that you've created. And so what we did before is we did if the lang equals en, right? So that's English, or you can do if the language equals de, right? And you don't need to do lang as the key. You could just do L if you want, right? So you could do L equals de, and then that means if L equals de is passed to the end of the URL, this content will be displayed. Really simple. And that's essentially the basics of how we're going to swap out content based on language, right? All it is querying this URL parameter. That's it. Nothing too special. Now, agent URL has things that sets this as the default content. So like if, let's go back to lang so it's a little more relevant, or it's easy to see, right? So if no language is passed to the page, use whatever we add here as the default, right? So let's just do a couple examples here. We're going to do something really, really basic and very, very simple. Let's just add one column with some padding just for fun. Okay. We're going to do this, and we'll just add a header. We're just going to do headers for today. All this is, I'm just going to do really super simple content today. I'm not going to make anything super stylish or beautiful because we want to just see how we can swap out content. And we don't need pretty stuff for that. Just super simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay. So here we have language equals German. Here I can do, and I think I set German to be the default. So let's set this one to be, ES, which is Spanish. We'll check off the default on that. And Spanish. And we'll do one more, which is English. Okay. So here I have 3 stacks set up that are going to swap out the content based on whether the language on this page is set to German, Spanish, or English. And if I pass no language, then this is going to be German. Okay, so it's really easy to preview this. So if we just preview this inside the browser, we'll see it defaults to German, right? And then if I go ahead and add question mark lang equals ES to the end, which was the Spanish language code, we'll see, whoops. Oh, it helps if I spelled lang, right? L-A-N-G. There we go. So I add Spanish, the Spanish parameter at the end, and voila, we have Spanish, like magic. And if I go ahead and do EN, we have English, right? So as you see, really simple, right? This is really, really, really easy. And you can do this all over the place, right? So, but as you can see, by doing this, it really is going to add a lot of weight to the page, right? Weight to edit mode. Now, I should say that with agent, and I believe RWML works like this as well. I'm not familiar with the code on that, but I'm pretty certain all of it happens on the server. So basically, whatever is, not everything is sent down to the browser, basically, right? So everything is determined what's going to be sent on the server, and then it's sent down. Only what is needed for that language is sent down to the server, which is really cool. Okay. Now, I recommend you only do this with like simple content, so like text and images. Agent does have the ability to, let's say you wanted to, serve up a completely different slider or something like that, something kind of a little bit crazy. You can do that, but depending on the stack, you may need to turn on compatibility mode. So if you have stacks that you're, ripping out from the page, based on language or whatever, and it has a lot of complex JavaScript, it's possible it might break your page. And if it does, just turn on this compatibility mode, and that will, that'll make it work. Essentially, what that does is it still downloads some things down to the browser so that the JavaScript, the content's still there, but it's not visible. So this compatibility mode does send more stuff down to the browser than if it's turned off, but it's better than having your page broken, right? So just to let you know what that compatibility mode does. Okay, so really cool. If you wanted to overwrite stuff, so like if you wanted to, make sure that, we preview stuff inside, if we go back to agent, there is an agent preview stack. So you can be like, set my lang to en, and then if we preview this, it will preview English, right? So you don't need to add the little query parameters at the end. So this agent preview stack allows you to interact with agent in preview without having to add any sort of things to the URL and bar and all that jazz, right? So agent preview is good. It lets you see what someone loading a Spanish page would see, so on and so forth, without having to do a bunch of crazy stuff. So agent preview is really cool. Okay, now a lot of people are confused, like, I'm using agent URL. What there's a stack called agent lang. How come I can't use that, Joe? Like, what's the difference? Okay, so prior to today, what the agent lang stack did, and it was really cool, it was interesting, right? What it did is it detected the language of your user's browser. Let me drag it in here. So that if any of you are familiar with agent lang, these settings are different as of this morning because I tweaked it. Prior to today, what it did is it only looked at the browser, and it looked at what language the browser was set to, and then it set the language of your content of your page to the language of the browser. Pretty cool, actually. Like when I initially released it, I thought, wow, this is brilliant. Like, we don't need any sort of switches. If the person has their browser set to Spanish, it'll just serve up Spanish like magic, right? And in theory, that was brilliant, and it works really, really well. But, okay, as I got more into SEO and SEO helper and doing all this, SEO stuff for multi-language sites, I realized that while that's really cool and it does work from the end user's perspective, it's kind of like magic, right? It just it works, but it doesn't work too great for Google because Google will default to, well, I don't know, like if it sources it from google.com in the US, does it use English? Who knows, right? I'm thinking it'll use the default, which is probably going to be English for most places, right? Or German, if it'll use your the native tongue of that Google, I would assume, right? Or whatever you set as to be the default in the language stack. But for SEO, we really need to have different things now, right? So we need to have a unique URL for German, a unique URL for English, a unique URL for every single language. Okay. And we have that if we pass that lang. So lang equals en, lang equals es. That is considered a unique URL. Totally possible. And that is okay with Google. Right. But with what the lang stack was right now, the version that you all have, is it didn't really look for any URL parameters. It just magically did stuff. So if I would go to Weaver's, let's say I went to Weaver Space, and if my browser was set to German, I would get German content. If my browser was set to Spanish, I would get Spanish content. Weaver Space isn't localized, though. It's all in English, guys. That's just an example. So it was just magic. Like, it was the same URL, but it would serve up different content based on your browser settings. Again, which is cool, but not great for SEO. So I got my buttons thinking. I got the multi-language squirrel going, right? Here's the squirrel. And I thought, how can I make this better, right? How can I make the agent lang stack better and easier to use? So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to build the same exact layout, but using the agent lang stack. So you can still use agent URL. It'll work 100%. It just works. It's very generic, right? Because it just parses query string parameters, and that's it. So what we're going to do right now is inside agent lang, you can define what your key is. The default is lang, and that's going to be the little doohickey that's added to the end of the URL. So if you don't want it to be lang, you can make it whatever you want. If you want it to be L, if you want it to be locale, if you want it to be speak, whatever, right? We'll keep it with lang for right now, because I think that's a good default. Okay. And then what you can do is you can set the default language of the page to your browser language if you want, right? So if you go to the home page, it can default to be the browser language. That is okay. And then what you can do is you can save the language for the session. So it'll remember the user's language and try to apply that language on subsequent page views, which is kind of cool. Okay. And then we can process rules, or you can just have this, you can turn off the rules and have this kind of just at the top of the page. And at that point, you can use agent URL, or if you still want to use agent URL. Agent URL is, it has a few things that the lang stack won't. So if you want this compatibility mode, you're going to have to use the agent URL stack. And you can still use these, you would just use the key as lang to be the same key as you define up here. Okay. So just to let you know about that. Okay. Let's go ahead, but let's look at how we can build this with rules. So we can add as many rules as we want. And let's say English is our, let's do German. So we'll do here German. Okay, so we have German. We can set that there. We'll add another language. We'll set this one to be Spanish. Okay, Spanish. And then I'm just going to use this default drop area for English. So if anything other than German and Spanish are defined, we are going to show that. So essentially, this is going to be the exact same thing that we had before, right? So if we preview this, we have English, which is the default because nothing was passed to the here. Let's just do this. Here, you can also use the language selector here. If you can also use the lang and pass in a URL parameter, but now you can also use the language here. So if we set the language to be Spanish, okay, now preview this. Oh, interesting. I didn't test that yet. I'll make sure I look at this preview and if it works with the new lang stack. But here, if we go ahead and do lang equals es, right? That should work. Oh. That didn't work either. Interesting. Okay. I'll have to play around with that. But here, let's actually I'm going to publish this really quick. Let's see if this works. Again, I just did this new language stack this morning, so or the updates to it. So let's go ahead and see. Let's go to the sandbox. Okay, make sure. Okay, good. English. If we do lang equals DE. Okay, it is working. Not sure why it wasn't working in preview. I'll have to look at that. But if we pass lang equals ES, it equals Spanish. Okay, cool. So, and it will. So we have right in the agent lang stack. It's still cool. We define what our key is. We can define what the default language is. You can manually define it, so it's English or German or whatever, or you can set it to be the browser language still. Which is kind of an interesting feature if that's what you want. Okay, so this lang stack, you can I'm just using headers in here, but now you can easily swap between whatever content, full blocks of text, images, entire layouts if you want. So yeah, pretty powerful. And how do we? What are some of the other things, right? So that's swapping out content. Okay. What about other things? Right. So what about like menus or things like that? So with menus, again, if you're using a traditional theme, I think RWML is probably going to be the best thing for you right now. But what are other options? So let's just we're in Foundation right now, right? So what we can do in here, if we just add top bar. So let's just go ahead. I can add a default top bar here. Okay. And that's probably going to be, that will be all English. And then what I can do is I can add, I can copy that into here. So I could have potentially 3 different top bars. And inside here, what we can do is by default, all these are going to take in the the actual HTML, or I'm sorry, it's going to bring in the actual pages from in here. Okay. So what we're going to do is, it is a little bit of work, in that, what you do is you just do custom HTML, and inside here, what you can do is you can rebuild your menu for Spanish or German or things of that nature, right? A couple of the menus also have like little menu builders where you can, select the links and stuff like that. Does Top Bar have that? I don't remember. Wait, where is it? Menu, custom menu. No, I didn't have the menu builder on here. Okay. So yeah. So what you would do here is you would have your home page, right? So, and this gives you sample data in here, and then you can just change it, right? So instead of home, Spanish, I don't know, was it casa? I don't know, casa, right? There you go. And then you would put in the URL here, so you could put in, or you can just put in slash, right, for the home page, and then you could put, whatever it is for contact, in Spanish. No clue. I'm not even gonna guess. And then you could do, slash contact for the page path, stuff like that, right? So and then you could do full down, drop down menus as well. This could be as big or as small as you want, right? Here I will. Let's just do this. Spanish, so we can see this. Boop, and then inside the German rule, we will have, I have no idea what home in German is. Let's just say German, so we can see the difference here. Okay, I'm gonna publish this now. Oh, I have this inside of one column. That's fine, whatever. Okay, so if we refresh the page, all right, here, let's go to the default page without the language. Okay, so here, this is just a default top bar. Oops. What did I? Oh, I set the I set the default to be the interesting. Okay, so if we go to nothing here, so I set the save language as save language for session. When you do that, actually, let's. So right now, I set the language as English via the URL bar. And what I did was, if we go to the default URL, it's set to English, right? But if I set the language to be German, okay, what this setting does here in Agent Lang, it says save language for session. So what it does is, even though the next URL I visited, if I delete the language attribute, it remembers that I prefer German. So what it does is it continues to produce German content until I actually supply a new language. So if you're curious what the save for session does, that's exactly what it does. I'm going to turn that off right now just for testing purposes. That's a cool thing to know. But if you want to turn it off and you really want it black and white, turn that off. Okay. So now that I turn that off, this should, here, let's just set the end. Okay. Now if I go to the main page, it should just, okay. So here we have, oh, it's still German. How did I set the default there? I don't know. Maybe my language in my browser set to German. You know what? A long time ago, I was testing something, and I think I set my browser language to be German. This will be interesting. Let me see this. I don't even remember how to do that. But I was testing something, and I remember setting my language to be German before. No, it's set to. Interesting. Okay. But as you see, when we pass different languages, so if I passed lang equals es to the URL, we got the Spanish language, right? So that's to answer your question, Matthias. That is how we can have different menus based on language, right? So we just supply different translations for our menus straight in any of the foundation stacks. So Foundation 6, this will be a little bit easier to do. I haven't built the menu stuff out yet, but it's going to be extremely modular. So yeah. But hopefully that answers your question, right? So if you're going to do this with agent, and this is how I would do it. Cool. And probably what you could do is you could probably partial this top bar here. Let's do something interesting. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to partial this out, because what about like all these other top bar settings, right? Like, because like if you ever want to change it one place, and you got to change it on all three for every language, right? It's kind of annoying, right? So what we could do is we could do this. If we partial this, so we create a partial, let's just call it top bar multi-lang. Okay, so there, we have a partial called top bar multi-language. Oops. And what we want to do is we want to unpin. I'm going to unpin the HTML. Okay. Boom. And then what we'll do is we'll delete that. And we'll delete that. And then what we do is we go here and we copy that in here. And don't need that. We copy that in here. Boom. Okay. So yeah. So now what we do is the top bar settings will be changed on all of them at the same time, right? So if we go into the partial, we can then say, I don't know, let's change the base color to be like a deep red. Okay. We go back. It's red on all of them. Okay. But then I can go ahead and customize the menus for each, right? So this is that one is German. Let's go ahead and say this one Spanish. And this one is English. Okay. And maybe what I'll do is I'm going to set this the browser default to be English instead of browser language. Okay. And let's publish that bad boy. Oh, I don't want to preview on it. That's fine. So there we go. We can now once we we install it all at once, and if we start passing in our language attributes, voila, we can get all of our languages from there. And then we have the benefit of, since it's a partial, all the settings are going to be kept in sync between all three of these top bar instances. The only thing that is going to be different is going to be the actual menu items. So pretty cool there. Sweet. Okay. Oops. Sorry, Bella. Okay. Actually, someone mentioned something. If I go to here, no, it's set to English. Site language set to English. Okay. Okay. Pretty cool stuff. So that was menus. Any other questions on menus? Right now, using a non-standard site called navigation, which doesn't have the option of using HTML. Yeah, I can't guarantee that every menu stack that you're using will work like this. So if you don't have the ability to define in your menu stack, you're probably going to have to use something like RWML for the menus then. I don't have another solution besides that right now. So yeah. Yeah, I know some stacks have, like, I know some of the other menu stacks that I've used before, they'll have like child stacks where you can like add a menu item and stuff like that. That can be used as well. Yeah, it would be nice. I don't have another solution besides RWML is the best solution now. If you don't have the ability to define the actual menu that's being used and for every single page. So yeah, RWML is the best solution right now for that. Cool. So, okay, switching languages. Oh, how do we switch languages? Okay. So, how do we switch languages? So, we were just, as you see, we were passing just keys to the URL, lang equals German, or lang equals DE, lang equals ES, lang equals EN, right? So, what can we do to do that, right? So there's a lot of different ways we can do that. It's pretty generic. All it is adding some URL parameters to the end of the page, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and add a button group here, and you can use a lot of people use like little icons with links in them that are just flags or so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of different stuff that you can do. I'm going to use buttons for right now, and let's just do German. Okay, and I want this to be a link. And what we're going to link to is we're going to link to question mark lang equals DE. Set link. Okay, and here, I'm just going to do paste. This one's going to be Spanish. The language is going to be ES. And German. Or no, this one's going to be English, which is lang is going to be en. Okay, so there's that. Let's just publish page. It's a little easier. It doesn't run Mac in preview, actually. It doesn't matter. We just preview. So now, if I go to Spanish, if you notice the Spanish menu showed up. If I click on English, the English menu shows up. If I click on German, the German language shows up. So yeah, these are just simple buttons. That's all it is. Or links, right? So you can do the same thing if you're using like font awesome icons with flags or, some sort of special image that, you want to set. Like, or you can even define them inside the menu item. Like you can have a, swap language and have a submenu that has all your available languages, something like that. It's just a simple link. That's all it is. It's not really that magical. All it does is add the lang equals and the language tag at the end. So really simple stuff here. It's just a simple button and or a simple link. So if you don't want to use a button like a button group like this, I think that's probably a little overbearing, right? But maybe smaller buttons or icons I think work really nice as well. So like little font awesome flags or something like that. So really good stuff there. Another thing that you can do is if you wanted to get really fancy, I think we got a little bit of time. I can even set up like a little foundation form, right? So if I set up a form base, and then what we could do is we could set up a select box in there, and we can have, let's see, German is DE. We have Spanish is ES, and English is EN. Okay, well, yes. And then we're going to set the field name to be lang, which is going to be our key. Okay, the lang needs to be key. Okay, set that to be required. Nah, I don't want that. Then we need a button. And then we're going to do form submit. Probably want like a tiny button. It's a pretty big button size. Tiny button, line right. And this select box is going to be ginormous for right now because it goes full width, but just bear with me. I should do it, right? Oh, let's say go or change lang, something like that, right? Oh, and then in our form, we want our form to custom post address. We want to get. I haven't tried this, but I think this is it. And I think we just leave the post URLs blank. Let's give that a shot, actually. That'll be interesting. I'm going to publish this. I think this will work. I just thought about this possibility if you want a little drop down. It could work. Oh, I want to turn off email. Hold on one second. I don't want emails to go out for this. Email's turned on by default in a form. I'm going to turn off email. Okay, so we don't want email. We only want a custom post address with get form action. Okay, let's publish that again. Is it? Okay, so if I go to English, change lang, boom, that's pretty cool. Look at that. So yeah, so that's an implementation. Maybe you could do an inline button. So this button is on the same line as the little drop down. And obviously you probably don't want this drop down to be full width. But that works. So you can swap your German and English. That could be nice that if you swapped, it would like automatically submit the form. That's not possible right now. Maybe it's something I can add to the Foundation 6 forms. But right now you would need to select and then actually, click on the change button. Interesting implementation, possibly. I'll keep that in my brain for Foundation 6 forms to make like a simple forms, just auto submit when you change it. That could be kind of cool. I could be on board with that. Especially for get forms. Okay, cool. Sweet. That's pretty slick. So that deals with submitting, how do we swap the languages once we're on the page? Okay. Now the next bit is SEO tags. Like, okay, what do we do for SEO tags? Because I want to make sure that all of my SEO tags are unique for every single language. What do we do for that? Well, it's pretty simple. It's the same exact thing I've just been showing you for swapping out content. We're just going to swap out SEO tags. Okay. So essentially what we're going to do is just bring up SEO helper. Okay. And we're just going to drag in SEO meta tags in here. And obviously you can swap out a bunch of stuff here. And now if you want to change the page title, so the page title, now this inside SEO basics, this doesn't change the actual page title. This is just the title for like Open Graph, like Facebook and Twitter posts and stuff like that, right? There is a new meta tag called page title in here that will allow you to modify the page title with SEO helper, and it's pretty slick. And it will remove whatever the page title it'll whatever you have set as the page title inside a RapidWeaver. This will remove it, okay, and it will insert whatever you define here, okay. So here you would just simply create your SEO tags for German, create your SEO tags for Spanish, and then you can create your default SEO tags here, and you can change obviously in these settings that the basics. That contains a lot of the basics. So that it contains page description, social media, all that jazz, right? And these obviously integrate with Total CMS as well. So you can do that if you want. But yeah, so if you want to change the page title and description and all the other basic tags, this is exactly how you would do it. You would just use a lang rule and define, your language rules for your content and do it all that way. Pretty simple stuff. Same exact thing. Obviously, you're not going to have it in a one column. It'll probably be up at the top here, at the top of your page. And you're probably going to hide it because that eats up a lot of page or content in edit mode. So lots of work, right? Yes, you have to define, your meta tags. If you want to do it properly, you should define meta tags for every single language on a page as well. So you're doubling or tripling your work here. Now URLs. Okay, there is something important that we should also cover. Okay, so with SEO, there is going to be alternate language tag. Okay, and we're gonna want here. If you are using SEO basics, I should add. Is because we're gonna want to define two different types of URLs, or in this case, we're going to be defining 4 URLs on the page because we have English, Spanish, German, and then we have the canonical URL. Okay, so this is a lot of work. Okay, but if you want to build a multilingual site, this is how you do it properly with proper SEO. Okay, so we're going to need alternate language. Okay, for 3 languages. So we're going to set up, So this is going to be https sandbox.joeworkman.net. Wonder if I can do some sort of macro in here to make it a little bit easier for people. I'll think about that. But for right now, you're going to have to type out the URL. Okay. And then you're going to do $lang equals, we're in German right now, or Spanish. Well, it doesn't matter. Or the ES, right? So this is going to be the Spanish URL. Okay. And then we copy and paste, and we're going to have a German URL. DE, okay, and if you want the language, the English URL, English is our default, so we're gonna put that to no language parameter, right? Okay. Now another thing you're gonna want to add is you're gonna want to add a canonical URL. Now you can also set this inside of here. So if you're using SEO Basics, you can uncheck auto detect page URL, and then you can type in the URL here. Now, the canonical URL is going to be different for all three languages. So these alternate languages, these can be the same for every single language. Okay, so maybe you can put this up in, because maybe you have like a generic meta tags up at the top that's going to be the same for every page, right? So these are going to be the same for every single one, because the URL for the alternate language for German, Spanish, and English are the same. Okay. But the canonical URL is going to be unique for every single language, because the canonical URL for German, or let's say for this is the Spanish rule. So the canonical URL for the Spanish rule is going to be that, right? So lang equals ES. And then where happened to my German rule? I think I deleted it by accident. So we have a German rule here. The canonical URL to this is DE. Okay, because that tells Google the URL for this page. If you're looking at this page as German, the canonical URL for it is lang equals DE at the end. Okay, and then we have that, and then our default is going to be the default language that we have is going to be without the lang attribute. So it's just the URL. Okay, so hopefully that's a little confusing, right? Because we're going to have alternate language meta tags, and those define. So the purpose of that is, let's say Google indexes my page in English. It's going to see these meta tags and say, hey, this same exact page exists in German and Spanish, because I defined it alternate language pages. And alternately, if Google indexes this page as German, it sees that there's alternate versions in Spanish and English available, right? So this is a way for Google to really know all of the various languages on a page. Okay, it's a lot of work because you have to do it for every single language. And here I'm doing it 3 times because I have 3 languages. If you want to support more languages, Lord help you, because it's going to be a lot of work, right? So hopefully this kind of makes sense for you guys. How we can do this is using the agent lang stack. You can define rules, and you can just throw in different SEO helper stacks that will have unique data for each language. Okay, I see no comments in the chat box. Hopefully, maybe it's just deer in the headlights. It's a lot of work. Okay. I think that pretty much covers all of our bases for SEO, right? Inside here for each, I deleted it, but you're probably going to have either SEO basics, or you're going to add in stuff like page description and, a Twitter summary card, and probably a Facebook one, right? Where is Facebook? Oh, there it is. Staring me right in the face. So, right. I mean, it depends on if you're good with SEO basics. Review the SEO helper videos to see what the difference is between those. But you're going to want to probably define all of these things different for every single language, right? Lots of work. It is. Yes, it is. But But yeah, if you want to support a multi-language website and you really want to go all out with SEO, that's what you got to do. Okay. Okay. Well, last thing I wanted to mention was redirects, because maybe, if you're on a homepage and someone wants a German version, maybe you don't want to have all these rules on your webpage that swap out content. Maybe you just want to create a whole different German homepage or something like that, right? What you could do is, here, let's just, I'm going to create a new page on this, in this project. We'll call it German. Okay. And let's just do it, /DE. Okay. And then, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to only do German and English. Okay. Just to keep things simple here. Okay. My hreflang, my alternate language tag for this would be, sandbox.joeworkman.net/DE, because I'm going to have a dedicated, page for German. Okay. And then so that's the alternate language page. Then what I can do is on this page, probably at the very top, what I can do is there is a stack called agent redirect. So what I do is I can have agent lang and have a rule for German. And what I can do is I can just throw in a redirect stack, and we can redirect to the German page. Okay. So if we ever detect that the language of that we want for this page is going to be German, what we can do is we can redirect to the actual German web page. Okay. So let's just go ahead so that we know what we're doing. I'm going to add a header to the page. Okay, there we have H1 that just says German homepage. Okay, and okay, if the language equals German, we're gonna and you want the redirect to happen on all devices, so we're gonna make sure all these buttons are turned off, and just make sure the URL is good. Yep, and we're gonna publish. Now, this could be a good alternate solution, because, with partials, you could really, it's not going to be too much different in terms of if you partial all of your like layouts and stuff like that. You can really make it so that if you edit the layouts or some of the stacks on the English homepage, it'll also, modify those layouts on the German homepage as well if you use partials the right way. So there won't be too much. Oh, if I change something on the English side, I have to also change it on the German side, on the German page. It's just some drawbacks, right? Because your page here is going to be in edit mode is going to be a lot less stacks, because you don't have if German, if English, if Spanish, if this, if that, right? You could just kind of at the top of the page have some rules that redirect to different pages for you, and then you can manage all those pages separately, right? So it just depends on your workflow and how you like it, but this should work. Oh, I think I deleted all content on the English page. Okay. So if I just add lang equals DE to this page, it should automatically redirect me to the German homepage. Should, did it? Oh, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Interesting. Again, could be how I built this. Actually, let me go ahead and make sure that this, just add some content in here. Just publish that. I didn't test this particular scenario out beforehand. Okay. There must be some sort of PHP error on the page, because, yeah, there's definitely a PHP error on the page. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's something I can do a follow-up on it's probably just a conflict. Again, I whipped this new version of the agent lang stack out this morning, and I'll make sure I fix that before I ship it later this week. So cool. I hope you enjoyed this, everybody. I know I probably went really, really quick through everything. I think we went through most scenarios that you would need. I think the big hiccup for some might be the menus. That's the tough part, right? So if you were using a menu that doesn't allow you to define a custom menu, you're probably gonna have to go with RWML. Then and there's nothing wrong saying that you can't use both, solutions on the same page. You can use RWML and agent if you want. They will work on the same page. So it's probably good to have both products. They both have powers and strengths. I particularly for swapping out content and handling the language rules. I like the simplicity of the agent stack. I think it's really, really powerful. And the agent URL stack has that compatibility mode, which is very useful sometimes. Because some stacks don't like to be ripped from the page, right? So that is a very powerful stack. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, everyone. It was kind of a spur of the moment. Thanks to Gary Wan, on Weaverspace. He started talking about some multi-language stuff yesterday or the day before, and I was like, hey, that could be a good live stream this week. So thanks, Gary, for that. Hopefully you enjoyed this too, Gary, and hope everyone else enjoyed this. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys on the Hangout on Friday. Really, really cool. Gonna have a lot of fun stuff. I should have more amazing. Gunter talks about using my translate stack. Yeah, I have a free translate stack that just uses Google Translate. So basically it'll translate all the text on your page using Google Translate. And we all know that while that is it's better than nothing if you want to support multiple languages. We all know Google Translate isn't the best, right? So, computer translations are never going to be great. So, yes, I didn't even think about mentioning that. Thank you, Gunter, for mentioning that one. It does use Google Translate. It just adds like a little, wherever you put the stack, it adds a little drop-down menu. You could select from any of like 50 or 100 languages or whatever Google automatically supports. And then Google just replaces all the text with their translated versions of the text, which obviously can be a little questionable. But it could be better than nothing, right? Because if someone speaking Spanish visits your German website and they don't know German, they'll understand Google's translation a lot better than your German, right? So it could be better than nothing. So if you really don't want to go through all of this rigmarole and this double the work, Google Translate could be a solution for you. And that's just free stack on my site. So cool. Thank you very much, everybody. Just want to let you know, Weaverspace Summit is coming up next month. We are about 7 weeks away, I think it is. Really exciting. Going to be a great summit. Amazing conference. A lot of really great speakers this year. And I think you're going to love it. We're really going to focus a lot on the questions that you guys have that you can't just find from a YouTube video or on these live streams, right? We're going to be learning from some really great, freelancers that have been building RapWeaver businesses and just crushing it. And a lot of really great professionals from outside our industry to help us, solve, I think, some problems that a lot of us have on an everyday basis that we probably don't want to take the time to learn about or learn better ways to solve. So going to be a really great conference. Obviously, I think it's going to be a great conference. Have awesome hangouts during midday as well as post day to interact with myself and speakers. It's just going to be 3 days of fun. And also you get access to over 60 videos from previous years that you'll have access to immediately when you purchase. So anyway, check that out at summit.weavers.space. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye.